so we can get that for people who've missed it. So yeah, this is a collective and generous space. We're here to share ideas, concepts and questions, and we hope that you'll be sharing your own thoughts and ideas with us. There are no stupid questions in this space, and we just welcome whatever comes up. We know that the gnarly implementation of robotics is not straightforward, and it requires many perspectives and many skills to help realise the potential impact of robotics in development. So the opportunity is to be here together for 1 hour. It's a real gift in helping us to develop our collective understanding about one potential solution in the myriad of challenges that development and humanitarianism faces, particularly in the light of the news over the recent news over the last couple of months, seeing cuts to global aid. So we're really here to explore potential efficiencies and how we might move forward. So with that in mind, I'm going to invite you now just to take a moment to close some tabs, maybe switch off your notifications. If you want to hide your phone under a pillow so you're not tempted to look at it, please take a moment now, maybe sort of clear some space in your digital world so that we can be here. So today we're on the frontier of robotics in development, and we'll be hearing about a recent Frontier Technologies Hub study. We'll be hearing from the team working on this, and then we'll be hearing from some innovators on the front lines of using robotics in context. And there'll be plenty of time for you to ask questions as well. And we invite you to use the chat throughout too, so that we can kind of get ahead of some questions and dive into that when the time comes. This session is a sneak peek into the work that the team have been doing over the last few months, and we're launching our full project findings in 2 weeks. And you will be the first to know. So today is an early insight into what we've learned. I'm now really delighted to introduce your guides for the event. Actually, Sam, I wonder if we can not screen share for this bit, just so we can really see who's going to be speaking. Thank you. So first up, Phil Outram is a Senior Research Officer at the FCDO. If you can give us a wave, Phil, it'd be lovely to see you. And he heads up the Frontier Tech Hub within the FCDO and is working across tech and innovation initiatives. Dr. Patrick Meyer, give us a wave, Patrick, was born and raised in Africa. He's the founder of the Climate Robotics Network, and he previously co-founded and led We Robotics, an international non-profit, and served as strategy lead for robotics at the Swiss Institute of Technology. Adewale Adekoke is the CEO of Agro Exchange and head of Nigeria Flying Labs. Adewale is here but doesn't have his camera on, so I'll maybe invite him to give a reaction as opposed to a physical wave. He has over 2 decades of combined experience in GIS and remote sensing, robotics, ag tech and agribusiness, and he specializes in ground and aerial robotics. Vimal is with us. Give us a wave, Vimal. Vimal Govind is the co-founder, managing director and CEO of Gen Robotics Innovations, and he leads the development of robotic solutions for social impact. He played a key role in creating Bandicoot, the world's first robotics scavenger, transforming sanitation and improving worker safety. He specializes in robotics, AI and exoskeleton technology. And we're really lucky that Adewale and Vimal are going to give us case studies later on. I'm also joined by Asad Rahman and Sam Stockley Patel. If you can both give us a wave, that would be great, who've been working on this from the Frontier Technologies side and are here today to support this event. So over to Phil Outram, who's going to kick us off with a bit of an intro.
Brilliant. Thanks, Bryony. And yeah, huge thanks to our speakers today and for all of you for attending. So as Bryony said, yeah, my name is Phil Outram. I am the technical lead of our Frontier Technologies program here within the Foreign Commonwealth and Development Office, working in the Research and Evidence Directorate. It's a brilliant program to run, and I get to do and sort of launch really exciting initiatives like this. But just taking a step back, I guess, why is the FCDO interested? Why am I interested? I mean, I think, we recognize with changes, rapid developments in Gen AI, computer vision, agentic control, lots of reasons why robotics is it feels like is on the sort of cusp of a paradigm shift. We're now talking about physical AI, and I just think it's such an exciting space. But equally, I think it asks some really interesting questions when looked at through the development lens. What are the opportunities it provides, but what are the risks? Do we want to automate everything? Amazing opportunities, I guess, you can think of automation in areas of danger, like drones into disaster areas. But what about, automation, job losses is such an obvious one. So we felt, it's coming, it's happening. We really need to know more about it. It's not a subject I know a lot about. So really exciting, really grateful to Patrick for leading this and really helping us understand the opportunities, the risks, and what we need to do in this space. Just from an F Studios perspective, we particularly, asked them to look at three sectors. We've got agriculture, climate adaptation, and waste management, which I think is such a great sort of framing to look at, can robotics deliver substantial benefits for sustainable development, poverty reduction, and climate resilience? So yeah, lots at stake. I won't say any more. I think I've done my bit. So yeah, we'll hand over to the people that know. Thanks, Bryony.
Thank you so much, Phil. And before we do that, we'd love to understand a little bit more about who is in the room. So thanks to those of us who kicked us off telling us where you were joining from today. It's amazing to see folks joining from California, Costa Rica, Dar es Salaam, London, amazing range. I'd love to hear next which organisation you're joining from today. And this will give us a sense of who's here in the room, whether you're representing a big organisation or whether you're here as an individual or part of your own robotics startup. We'd love to know. So please write in the chat which organisation, and don't press send just yet. Sorry, Phil, I let you rush ahead there. And then we're going to press send all in one go. So yeah, please pop in the chat which organisation are you joining from today. And hopefully it's an easy one, so I'm not going to give you too long. When you're ready, please press send. Great. Okay, awesome to see such an interesting range here. CDAC, DEC, Factor E Ventures, Founders Pledge, seems like a real range here, which is fantastic. So thanks for sharing. The next question, and yeah, love to maybe, do we get everyone there? Feels like not so many answers for the 40 people in the room. So please do jump in if you haven't yet. What are you hoping to get out of today? Why are you here, basically? Curiosity, context, deeper knowledge, connection with others. What are you hoping to get out of today? And I'm going to give you a minute just to write. Oh, people are off. I love it. Okay, great. Yeah, please press send when you're ready. And we're getting a few different answers in here. So we've got people who are interested in new routes for robotics, hearing about the report, collaborating and curiosity, connection with others, understanding what robotics can realistically do. Okay, fantastic. So keep those coming, and hopefully we will meet some of those needs and requests. So I'm going to pass over to Patrick now. And as I do, I really encourage you to ask your questions in the chat as Patrick and others are speaking, so that we can really get through as many questions as we can when we get to the Q&A. So over to you, Patrick. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bryony. Thanks so much, Phil. Thank you all very much for making the time. We know you have plenty of other places you could be, so we really appreciate you choosing to spend some of your time today with us. Before I kick off, just to recognize as well that this has been a huge team effort over the past several months now. I counted 26 individuals who were either directly engaged or indirectly engaged and I'm sure there's even more. And so it really has been an outstanding team effort across great colleagues within the Frontier Tech Hub, of course, FCDO, and then all the domain experts that we have been able to benefit from and who have contributed significantly to the insights that you're going to hear today and when our studies are available at the end of the month. So big team effort. I'm just one person who gets to relay all this right now, but it was truly a phenomenal collaboration. And actually, you have a number of fellow colleagues here who have joined today, like Marie-Rose and Bikash and many others who are joining this particular event. And so please, I invite all of you who've been directly and indirectly involved to also chime in and answer the questions. You know this topic as well as anybody else. So, all right, I'll move to the next slide, I think. Right, so, question is why now? And I think Phil kindly already hinted at some of that. First, I would say, we continue to face a number of challenges in basically advancing the Sustainable Development Goals. There are multiple challenges there. It continues to be a challenge to scale, to accelerate, and of course now with not now, it's been there for a while, but climate change and so on, setting back some of our progress towards the SDGs. It's a struggle. So that's one reason why we would want to look at a full range of other possible solutions, recognizing that there is no silver bullet, of course. Another reason is AI. AI is getting so much attention, extreme amount of funding as well over the past, 24 months in particular with Gen AI. But as Phil also said, many of the experts in the robotics space within industry believe that the next step within AI, beyond generative AI, is actually physical AI, meaning embodied AI or robotics, general purpose robotics. So we're not ending with Gen AI. And so this is where the trend is headed. And so just to applaud also FCDO for thinking ahead and thinking about how we might position this space with respect to development and support. As Phil also rightly mentioned, and a continuous thread throughout our projects and explorations are the real risks. There's no sweeping any of these risks under the rug, right? And so cognizant of the risk around unemployment and several others, we gravitated towards this idea of the 5Ds. It used to be 3Ds, but now it's 5Ds, a framework that was put forward by UKRI. Next slide, Sam, please. And these are basically looking at those kind of jobs that are dangerous to human beings, dirty, dull, distant, demanding, or difficult. Those are the kind of jobs that one might want to focus on, especially if those jobs are in sectors or industries that are facing labor shortages, because then it becomes even more of a no-brainer to say, okay, well, how do we automate some of these very dangerous, demanding, difficult, dirty jobs without then also taking any labor away? Next slide, please. So we took a multi-mixed methods approach to this work. For sure, of course, the applied desk research worked with outstanding colleagues and researchers on this with FTH and also outside. We had the opportunity and good fortune of having extensive number of one-on-one interviews with domain experts from all around the world. Then my fellow co-lead, Tom Robinson, led a 4-day strategic foresight workshop, which was absolutely phenomenal and will be definitely one of the highlights for me over this 2025 year. And if you have any questions on the actual very specific tools that we used, certainly happy to get into that, and Tom can of course speak to that. And then we also had an open survey for use cases. Next slide, please. All right, time horizon was about 5 years, 5 to 10, but 5 because we wanted to have it be relatively near future to be able to help influence and shape what's coming up. We took deliberately a local first approach or majority world approach. Diverse set of experts, both from robotics space, from development, folks who come from deep tech space, and we benefited tremendously. There are a number of you here, so you know who you are. Feel free to let folks know in the chat that you've been involved in this. But we had folks from Ghana, from Haiti, Iraq, Kenya, Mexico, Nepal, Nigeria, Pakistan, South Africa, US, UK, and beyond. So truly incredible, diverse insights that we've all benefited from as a result. Last quick note to say is, we did not focus on drones. And the question is why, of course? Well, because the use of drones in development and humanitarian space has been extensively documented over the past decade now. This is not a new space for FCDO. It's not a new space for entrepreneurs and for development experts either. What was completely missing as far as robotics goes was all the other form factors of robotics, from ground robotics and aquatic robotics to robotic arms. Next slide, please. So we gained a number of insights. We'll share some of them today. In particular, thanks to the strategic foresight work that colleagues like Bikash here, who's just messaged on the chat, were involved, as well as Marie-Rose. Thanks to that 4-day workshop and these expert contributions, these individuals identified 3 sectors that are particularly well suited for the use of robotics to help advance the Sustainable Development Goals. And these 3 sectors identified by these experts are climate adaptation, climate resilience, climate adaptation, agriculture, and waste management. And I'm going to go through each of these 3 briefly and invite my good colleagues Adewale and Vimal to share their work within the ag space and the waste management space. Next slide, please. So on climate adaptation, I don't have to spell it out to you all. You know this very well. One point to also maybe just emphasize is that the vast majority of climate funding is going towards mitigation. Very, very small portion is going to adaptation. This is extremely problematic. Many countries and cities around the world, not least Los Angeles, are on the front lines of climate change and dealing with this now, not tomorrow. And there's an urgent need to adapt. At the same time, this idea of adaptation tech is very, very new in the global north. And the use of robotics for climate adaptation is equally very, very new. And so while the Climate Robotics Network, and full disclaimer, I've been involved in this and continue to be involved in this network, has identified some 300 startups working in robotics and climate action. The vast majority, again, are focused on mitigation because that's primarily where a lot of the funding has gone and also a lot of the buzz has gone in terms of climate action. This is starting to change, but it's still very, very early days. So that even in the global north, we're not seeing as many examples as we ought to, but it's going to become indispensable. And this is really not me saying this. This was entirely driven by the experts who participated in the foresight work. Next slide, please. Just to give you one example from the global north, there's a French startup called Aqua. They have this kind of cylindrical robot that goes into water pipes that enable utilities to get a better situational awareness on their whole water network system, basically, identifying leaks, defects, and so on for preventive maintenance and so on. Why is this important? Well, we know from climate studies and climate scientists and so on that resource scarcity is going to be exacerbated due to climate change and water in particular. In fact, it's been really interesting in just the past 6 months, seeing VCs, investors in particular, double down and saying we want more solutions in the water management space. And there are these statistics that I think are staggering, even though I've known them before and I look at them again. 4 billion people around the world who actually face severe, not just some kind of water scarcity, but severe water scarcity at least once a month every year, and that's only going to increase. And in the meantime, we're losing over 300 billion liters of drinking water every day. Incredible. So there's a lot we can do to adapt. Next slide, please. Agriculture is also being, is under stress, even without thinking about the climate impact. But with that, then it really becomes an issue around food security with extreme events and a huge source of income as well. Country level, farmer level, of course. But what we've been seeing for decades now across the world is that the average age of farmers has been increasing. It's about 60 now in Kenya, for example. And the youth are not going into farming. They're not getting into farming. I spoke with one of these experts in northern Kenya, who was telling me the reality is that, the young people are going to the cities. That's where the jobs are. And farming is seen as a low status kind of profession. It's also physically demanding. So you have this interesting setup where you have a growing youth unemployment in many countries. But at the same time, you have labor shortages within the agriculture farming space, right? And so how might potentially robotics help to deal with this labor shortage, might be able to bring in more efficiency to farming, lower the carbon footprint, and so on? For that, we are very, very lucky to have my good colleague Adewale, who is the founder of AgroExchange in Nigeria, who's going to now take the floor to share with you the work that he's been doing hands-on. This is really where the rubber hits the road, not theory, not academic. This is what's being built right now and his learnings in building and the opportunities and challenges along the way. So Adewale, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Patrick and Bryony. Pleasure to be here. Once again, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Adewale Adegoke, and I'm the CEO of AgroExchange Technology Services Limited. Today, I'm excited to present a transformative case study on how farm robotics can revolutionize agriculture in Nigeria and beyond. At AgroExchange, permit me to say, our mission is clear. We want to create efficiencies along the agricultural value chain, de-risking financial investments in upstream crop production for profitability and long-term sustainability. Nigeria holds immense potential for context, right? It could become not only its own food basket, but also a global leader in agricultural exports. However, the reality is stark. We have smallholder farmers, who make up to 80% of the farming population, struggling to survive on less than $2 a day. Despite this, agriculture contributes significantly to Nigeria's GDP, accounting for over 25%, as you can see, as 26.11%. And yet the challenges, such as per hectare cost of production, labor shortages, minimal integration of robotics into the production workflow, have kept yields low, and farmers have become stagnant, And these are problems that we are determined to resolve at AgroExchange. We know that the potential is huge, and we want to be able to de-risk it at every point. Next slide, please. To address these issues, we have to ask ourselves a question: why farm robotics? Why now? We proposed the integration of ground and aerial robotics into farming operations, and a key component of this initiative is the development of a weeding robot. We also have to consider the fact that we have high cost of production in terms of the economics of production for upstream agricultural production is over 40% due to inflation and removal of the oil subsidy. We have labor shortages, especially during peak seasons, like what Patrick mentioned earlier. The youth aren't interested in agriculture because they don't consider it sexy. We have low efficiency in terms of low integration of robotics, leading to low yield. Next slide, please. Like I mentioned earlier, our core focus is robotics, automation, to be able to transform the agricultural space in Nigeria. And the minimal, can we go to the next slide, please? Now, one of the key reasons why we have introduced the weeding robot is, and consider this initiative, is the fact that weeding is a key component of the agricultural value chain. When you plant, you need to weed according to the good agronomic practice of the crop. If weeding is not done at the right time, then the weed starts competing for nutrients with the actual crop, which reduces the yield. However, due to the labor shortages and high cost of acquiring the labor, we have a higher cost of production, which basically limits what the farmers can do in terms of the yield that they can achieve. And that is one of the factors that contribute to national average in terms of low yield in Nigeria. Now, the weeding component of it contributes about 25% of the total cost, which is quite high, especially for large farmlands. And we're looking at the minimum viable product, for the weeding robot that will be able to enhance operational efficiency by weed control while minimizing reliance on manual labor, which is what we're trying to manage. And a critical factor, given the current labor crisis, is by automating repetitive tasks, the weeding robot ensures that resources are used effectively and contributing to high yields. Here, we'd like to start with the solar-powered, semi-autonomous, remote controls, camera sensor, and weed removal blades for starters, because we want to build something that any mechanic within the area will be able to fix before we scale up based on lessons learned to artificial intelligence, obstacle avoidance, and long-range connectivity. Next slide, please. The anticipated outcomes of integrating farm robotics into the Nigerian agriculture is profound. And farmers will experience significant cost savings of up to 25% on the economics of production, 80% in terms of compliance with good agronomic practices, because it is needed. Typically, farmers without the necessary capacity, they plant arbitrarily without following a certain structure, using like a ridger where you have clear ridges, to be able to ensure that, resources are managed more efficiently. In that case, having a robot would be quite difficult to be utilized. So it has to be done in combination with good agronomic practices and a structured planting process. Then we have over 60% higher yield and higher weeding and farm management efficiency, and also 25% savings on labor. And this leads to higher crop yield, improved smallholder farmer livelihood, job creation for youth, including women agripreneurs in farm robotics. Moreover, in adopting cutting-edge technology positions Nigeria as a pioneer in sustainable and innovative farming solutions. And we invite you to join us in transforming agriculture through power of robotics, because every farmer deserves a chance at prosperity, and every nation deserves access to abundant, affordable food. Thank you very much for listening.
Brilliant. Thank you very, very much, Adewale. And folks, please do line up any questions you might have. We're going to have a Q&A with both our speakers shortly. Moving on to the next slide, please. So the third sector that was identified by these experts as promising for robotics was waste management. And you've all seen the statistics globally. The amount of waste, the type of waste that we're generating is completely off the charts. It's going even further off the charts. So, whether we like it or not, we're going to need some level of automation to deal with all this. And in particular, if we're going to start adopting more seriously a circular economy approach, then this becomes absolutely indispensable. And so now, instead of thinking and speaking about this theoretically and abstractly, we have the very good fortune of having my good colleague Vimal here with us, who is the CEO and co-founder of Gen Robotics in India, who's going to share firsthand the incredible work that they've been doing. It's been one of the most inspiring examples for me of robotics for the SDGs that I've come across throughout this project. So Vimal, thank you so much for making the time, and the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Patrick, and Brenoi also, for your effort on this particular space. Hi, myself Vimal Govind. Hi to everyone. Good evening. And here today I'm going to share our work in robotics and AI on empowering humanity, specifically to the workers who works in a very extreme environments. Next slide, please.
Vimal, just to let you know, the GIF won't work just because of when we have to bring these slides together, but we can send out the slides afterwards.
Okay, fine, no problem. So again, during our college days only, we started to get this particular problem where we heard a news where 3 people are died inside a manhole when they are trying to clean the manhole. Two sanitation workers who are supposed to do the cleaning work of the manhole, and one auto rickshaw driver who also tried to help the unconscious people. When they do the work, they got unconscious, and the auto rickshaw driver tried to help them also. He also fell unconscious and died in this accident. And it became quite a big news because of, the next slide, please. Majorly because, this type of cleaning is illegal in India, the country where I am from, and also it is inhuman. But still, due to the necessity of people has to enter into this kind of a, infrastructure, they had to do this. People has to do this. And that's where we thought of, why not introduce robotics into this particular space. Now, explaining the term manual scavenging. Manual scavenging, as mentioned, involve the dangerous and dehumanizing task for manually cleaning sewers and septic tanks. So basically, as you see in the picture, it's not a AI generated image or anything. It's a real condition of a person who works in a very shallow manhole, where he is using his bare hand on declogging the different type of material which stucks inside the manhole. And this process is very much important in order to function the manhole as it designed by the civil engineers. So this is a very risky job in India. A specific caste is doing this particular activity for a long period of time. And the people who does this job, they are from a economically and caste wise also from a backward community. And most of them will die in accidents, or if it does not happen, they'll get some kind of a disease or something due to the nature of this particular task. And it's very ergonomically also the environment they have to work, and the entire confined space they have to handle, all that is very extreme. Next slide, please. And when we dig deep into this particular problem statement, we understood that every 5 days, one person is dying in India, specifically doing this particular task. So that's why we thought of, definitely need to automate this with whatever effort we need to do into this space. Next slide, please. And even in foreign countries also, the developed countries also, this is there. Everywhere, the entry to this sewage system, they call manhole. It is designed for human being. Most of the place, even in Hollywood movies also, you may be seen, Spider-Man going through the sewer network and all that. So basically it is there, and it is just like that. The design itself involves human to work in this particular kind of a situation. Next slide, please. But most of the time people works with all that safety gadget and everything. That's why the death rate is considerably less than developing nations. And these are some of the accidents that I have collected from different part of the globe, including developed nations. An interesting picture is also there where a person tried to hinder in front of Buckingham Palace in UK with all this gas mask and everything. So that picture is also there. Next slide, please. So this is where we thought, we are pushing the technology specifically into space like advanced elements, but robotics and AI kind of an advanced technology can do a lot in our society and solve societal problems also. So that's where we thought of, take that responsibility and do something in this space. Next slide, please. And when we started to solve this problem, it is not just a technology creation type problem. There are deep-rooted social and economical kind of a situation involved. And one of the most important insight that we got from this, attending this problem is job loss is worse than manual scavenging. That's why these people are working in this kind of an environment. Otherwise, they will not do the task. But job loss is a much disheartening kind of a truth than manual scavenging. So we thought of, even though we want to introduce automation into the space, we don't want to lose them a job. So that's how we designed further. Next slide, please. And with that all intention, we have designed the world's first robotic scavenger called Bandicoot Robot. As you can see, it's having a stand unit with a user interface, and the user interface I have another picture in the slide where the people can see what is inside the manhole from an outside, and the robot will go into this inhuman and difficult and dangerous environment and do all the tasks. And the design of the robotic unit also we have done specifically by understanding what are the works that a person does inside manhole and automated by making a proper design to do that particular task. But since human being is designed by nature for a different type of task, But this robotic unit is specifically designed for cleaning manhole. Because of that, we had a lot more design freedom, and that design freedom on creating the arm and creating the leg system and making it confined according to the manhole entry and inside dimensions give us a leverage of productivity also. And since even with the flooded manholes also people suffocate because they cannot walk inside water for a long period of time, but robot does not need to breathe or does not need to have that kind of environmental issues, that it can works very efficiently in this particular environment. And one other thing we have done is that carefully designing the user interface with graphical representations, because in India, specifically this backward community, they do not have a lot of educational skills. So and we have a lot of language and cultural background also. So because of the, in order to fit something into this entire nation, we created everything into a graphical representation so that people can understand it quickly and they can learn. So this is, we have been done just like one day kind of thing. We initially did it and it took around 1 month to train a manual scavenger, existing worker, to operate the machine. 1 month it took initially, but then later by carefully optimizing the design and everything, we now do it in a daytime. So morning we give the product and evening he will be able to understand how to operate the equipment. So that level of user experience and interface development is happened into the entire project. By doing that, next slide, please. So this is one, working of that particular robot, but that was Branoy was mentioning that it is very difficult to play at the moment, but I'll share to everyone through some other channel today. Next slide, please. So that was the product, and we initiated this project in 2016. And this is a real picture of a person in a sewage environment. So he was, this was his initial condition before, and we introduced the first robot in Kerala, the state that I'm from. And we have trained him to become a robotic operator, and the same person is able to run the robot from throughout the timeline right now. And during this entire process, next slide, please. We have rehabilitated more than 6,000 people in this entire process. There are around 50,000 people as working as officially manual scavengers in India. We have rehabilitated around 6,000 people, and still we are working on more. And 1,000 people we have accommodated them along with our project and becoming a part of our project, handling our robots in different part of India now. And this entire project we have scaled from 19 states and 3 union territories. Now we started to export into other developing nations with similar infrastructure like India, and spanning across different type of climate, different type of culture, language, all that we have done. That was the impact that we created in this entire journey. And that's it. That's the case study I want to present you today. Thank you so much. And now we are there to, at least to make sure that people will not die in this kind of an environment.
Thank you so much, Vima. Thank you to you and your entire team for the important work you're doing and the way you're going about doing it as well. It's not just what you're doing, but how you're doing it. Really appreciate that. Thank you. I'm going to quickly wrap up now because we really want to hear from all of you. Thank you for your patience. Share with you, next slide, please, some of the insights that we've gained, but you will have the full picture in the next week or two through multiple media and so on. So stay tuned. Some of the findings included, well, okay, there's a need to continue to grow the evidence base. Who else beyond Adewale and Bimal is doing pivotal, important, promising work? What are the most important use cases for robotics where we can have the most impact? There's a lot of that evidence-based building that needs to happen. Throughout the entire project, as you can also hear today, there's been a coherent thread around local agency. Roboticists and tech entrepreneurs in developing countries are continuing to say in one voice, we want to build our own robots. We want to be able to repair them locally. We want to be able to modify them. And importing robots from the outside, usually that's not an option, and it's also tends to be very costly as well. There are few, but very, very few exceptions in terms of the open source ag robotics space where the price tag is not off the charts. There's a need to support these experts, some of whom you've heard today, some of whom you learn about in the insights we'll be releasing at the end of the month. They can't do this on their own without any funding. There's obviously a need here to learn by doing, and they are at the forefront of this. And so that local first approach is really important. Next slide, please. Do no harm continues to be, of course, front and center. We've heard this already also today. On the unemployment space, there was a big discussion with these local experts as well around, repairing, maintenance, upskilling folks to be able to get into not only the operations of the robotics solutions, but also maintenance, preventive maintenance, and so on. Inclusion, I should say it at least 500 more times, is front and center as well. I mean, just look today, right? The main speakers are all men. This is a systematic structural issue that we see across the engineering space, the tech space, the robotic space as well. But unless we have diversity in the design, building, and deployment of robotic solutions, I don't see how we do no harm. If it's only one set of outlook on the world and how the world should be is designed by folks who are basically thinking all the same way, that's a recipe for disaster. We've learned this. We've seen this firsthand with humanitarian robotics already. So let's not replicate the same issues. We need strong gender inclusion in this entire work from A to Z. Lastly, sustainably. It's one thing to build, but we have to be able to do that sustainably. So this was an important thread as well throughout the work, drawing on advances in robotics, such as bio-inspired robotics, soft robotics, sustainability robotics, using alternative materials, sourcing from renewable energy, and basically using minimalism and sufficiency as a design lens for this work, right? So that we don't become part of the problem, of the climate problem. For example. So that's it from me. I think we can skip, well, you can move to the next slide, Sam, but I think we open it up. So Brian, back to you on the emceeing.
Thank you so much, Patrick, and a huge thank you to Vimal and Adewale for preparing such fantastic and detailed case studies that have provided a lot of kind of prompt and provocation for this group. I can see so many questions coming in. Please keep adding your questions and add them for Patrick and the Frontier Tech Hub team as well. We now have 10 minutes just to focus on that. So I'm going to kick us off with, there are a couple of things that have come up around participation. Sarah Cotton, you said at the beginning that you were really interested in how robotics can be participatory with communities. And Jonathan Walker has added a couple of questions to the chat. Adewale, I wonder if I can invite you to answer, just write in the chat about the first question, which is around how many robots have been deployed and how many tests have been run. But I wanted to specifically ask Adewale to come in on the kind of reaction of the farmers, how they've been involved in the development. And then I think we'll move over to Vimal on a similar kind of question or theme around participation and economy of how people are feeling about these robots very much having an impact in their jobs and in their day-to-day lives. So Adewale, firstly over to you. Have you had a sense of kind of a farmer's been involved in the process and how are they feeling?
Thank you very much, Barney, and thank you very much, Jonathan, for the question. So I'd like to say at the moment, we've not deployed any robots. We are at the design stage because we've been engaging with critical stakeholders, including small, older farmer groups, to be able to get a sense of what the current issues that they have, especially with existing within equipment that they use. We have different kind of within equipment in Nigeria, but they use fuel, and with the increase in price of fuel, it also adds to the cost, and also is inefficient because it takes time. It needs somebody to be able to hold it and move it around, which obviously defeats what we're trying to do in terms of efficiency. And we've engaged with about 320 farmers so far. We see that one of the key areas that they are focusing on is how they can reduce the cost, and that is how we want to be able to carry them along. And especially these 320 farmers have come from 2 farmer cooperatives within the southwest region of Nigeria, And these are the responses that we're now going to use in the design. We're going to be working with our team at Nigerian Flying Labs and We Robotics to be able to get the necessary support to be able to build the MVP. One of the constraints that we also facing is one, the finance to be able to basically take this, up, and also to get the necessary partners, outside Nigeria to be able to work with us, in building this for commercially, and also to be able to engage the youth. So, but for starters, at the moment, we've been engaging the farmers. One of the key issues that we see is the farmers want to go for something that is autonomous, reduces their cost, reduces any further cost and also any sort of human interaction, and is able to cover large areas. So this can be done quickly, in maximum 2 days, and they're able to get results. So that is critical. And through that, we're able to incorporate capacity building in good agronomic practices. So they're able to link both of them together. And this is what will actually contribute to increased yield for them and also high efficiency. I hope I was able to answer your question, Jonathan.
Super, thanks so much, Adewale. Vimal, similar kind of question to you about people, potentially being concerned about losing their livelihoods. That was a question from Magda. And Anne Rubion had a question about a potential double cost. So kind of how is that impacting how Bandicoot is being received and considered?
Yeah, okay. So actually, we have introduced a different type of model. There are rental models, there are leasing models, there are models of sales where the government will buy the equipment from us and then they give existing their workforce to use for a different type of working. So that type of model is also there. And there are integration of corporate social responsibility, like CSR kind of a funding also for the procurement of this kind of an equipment. And there are models, we even created interesting model where the existing workers collectively forming a kind of a group, and they take a loan for procuring this particular product, and the ULBs, the municipal corporations, are actually hand over the work to this kind of a team, because there are different type of community development programs and all that kind of things are also running through that channel. They actually handed over the work of cleaning to their workers who take this kind of a loan and machines and all, and then the ULBs will pay monthly to this community who buy this product, and they will pay the bank loan, and they get interest less kind of a loan program and everything from different type of banking schemes from India for this kind of an activity. So it's a multilateral process. A multilateral model is also there for implementing this project in different locations according to the availability of different type of funds. And then there are different type of funds available in India also, specifically Swachh Bharat. So last year the government is actually focused on building toilets, building infrastructure for different area where this is not there. And then along with this kind of funds, they also allocated a fund for maintenance of the this kind of purchase of equipment and everything for maintenance related activity also. So those kind of fund also been used. And then there are international fund coming like ADB and Japan. There is another fund coming from JICA. Japan fund is coming also for procurement and developing this kind of an infrastructure area. And I think that is happening in most of the countries, developing nations also, that kind of funding availability is also there. And the second question, since the robot is adding productivity, so we have, as per our studies and also the ULB studies, within 2 years timeline, they are getting break even on the cost comparing to the manual labor and cleaning methodology. So that is adding a lot of value in terms of economy, in terms of finance into the entire setup and creation and methodologies. But last thing is probably people ask, because this may create, because of the productivity we are bringing into the table, it may create job loss, during the entire run. But that is also not happening in this space, because since due to the entire nature of this work, there is already a labor shortage in most of the places where the infrastructure is available. And that labor shortage is adding the problem. Like, sewers are breaking down many places because of this particular labor shortage already. And as per our study, we identified only 16% of people, manpower availability to handle infrastructure. But by adding robot into this, the productivity can be lifted into another 80%, 100%, and still create additional employment in this particular space, by adding all this kind of an activity. And since a country like developing nations and specifically India, it's only 30% urbanized in most of the countries, the infrastructures. And this is also urbanizing, a new infrastructures being created. In Kerala, one of the state that we initially started, now complete automation of this entire activity is happening in the public infrastructure. And again, this financial year itself, they sanctioned two more and completed two more infrastructure with the sewage system, public sewage systems and all. And again, over there also, since there is already no existing manpower, so they started incorporating us from the beginning itself. So we have that upper hand on working with them from the beginning itself, so that there is a better way of working with the government also, and creating more employment in that way as well. So I think I have answered most of the questions which came by answering this.
Super. Thank you so much, Vimal. And I'm going to draw the Q&A to a close here. Just as we get another question in, maybe I'll ask Patrick if he wants to answer this one briefly from Jonathan. Mitigation and adaptation, identifying the actions we can take. Any thoughts on that, Patrick?
Difference between mitigation and adaptation. So mitigation in general is basically reducing carbon dioxide and other kinds of pollutants from the atmosphere that's warming everything up. And adaptation is adapting to the changes, like extreme events that are happening, flooding, rising sea levels, extreme heat, you name it.
Great. Okay, thank you. Thanks so much. So yeah, thank you so much to all the speakers today, Vimal, Adewale and Patrick, for sharing so generously with us and their experiences. And I really encourage you to connect with the team. The links have already been shared, but Vimal, Adewale and Patrick, please do put your LinkedIn profiles in the chat so people can connect with you and keep the conversation going. Just before we wrap up, I'd love to hear one more question from you all, because we've had quite a few questions fired at our panel today. So maybe a question back. What are you taking away from today's session? Can be something practical, can be a question you've got, can be an idea or something that you're still musing on, that you just want to have with you for the rest of the week as you think about this session. So what are you taking away? And please put your answer in the chat. I'll give you a minute to do that. And then we'll press send at the same time. And then I'll bring us to a close so that we honour everybody's time today and finish on the hour, or half past the hour if you're in India. So yeah. Please pop your...
And during this time, I just want to thank everybody today, specifically Branoy and Patrick, for a great initiative this is. And in 1 hour, I believe you've done a tremendous job. And also Branoy has helped me to put everything into 5-minute content. So I think I have also done that particular job very well to everybody to understand how it has to be think. Thank you so much for this initiative. So I just want to thank all of you for that.
Oh, thank you, Vimal. That's so kind. And yeah, it's not an easy job to share the complexity of your work in 5 minutes. So I really recognize that. So yeah, what are you taking away from today? Please share in the chat.
I find there is a great community, and this community, I believe they are the niche community that is very much aligned with our vision, and working with such kind of community and sharing knowledge in different type of problem statement is really helps everybody, including myself also. So I think that is the greatest thing I got from this particular event, and looking forward to connect with all of you in my LinkedIn, and further I'm also happy to share my experience with you and solve the problems in your part of the world and your part of the job.
Thank you,
and I'm volunteering, actually. That's what I'm saying. So because that's the vision we have, and here to amplify it.
Thank you so much, Vimal. That's fantastic, and a great invitation to keep the conversation going. So lovely to see all of the things coming in the chat. Things about the future on robotics, the economics, understanding the local kind of needs and participatory approaches, and yeah, cultural societal inclusion. That's a really interesting takeaway. Thank you, Ahmed. Okay, great. We're closing up now. Can you believe it? An hour has flown by, as it always does when you're really interested and having a really engaging time with all of these fantastic examples. So after this event, we'll be sharing with you the full report and website about robotics in development. That is the takeaways from this study. So look out for that. It will be sharing it with you on the 26th of March, so 2 weeks today. Keep an eye on your emails and do help us to share that further with your own networks and groups. If you've enjoyed this session of On the Frontier, then please join the Frontier Tech Network. We explore on the frontier of different technologies and themes. And our next exploration is on the frontier of underhyped technologies. And if you'd like to know more about what those are, sign up now and you will receive our newsletter going out in a couple of weeks that will tell you what the Frontier Tech Hub is exploring as the next 10 underhyped technologies. So thank you again for your questions, your contributions. Please do connect online and keep the conversation going. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening to Vimal and others on that side of the world. We'll see you again soon.
Thank you very much, everyone. Thanks, Patrick.
Bye.
Thanks, Barney.
Thank you,
Thanks, Vimal.
Adewale.
It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Absolutely
Cheers.
lovely to have you. Thank you.
Cheers. Bye.
Hi guys.